What it do, Cap Crew? SCN. Cap Team, stand up! Today, we got a little something different. Today, we got buried alive, the Nutty Putty cave incident. Let's see what they talking about here.
Being stuck in that position for going on 23 hours now makes it very difficult for him.
On the 24th of November, 2009, John Jones, a 26-year-old medical student and devout family man, was back home in Utah with his pregnant wife and their young daughter.
Much of it sound loud.
During the stay, he and a group of 10 other friends and family members arranged a trip down to the Nutty Putty cave system.
Nutty
This was
Putty
a supposed
cave.
beginner's cave, located near the family's home in Salt Lake City. But the trip would quickly turn into a hellish nightmare, causing one of the most unusual and arguably terrifying deaths in caving history, leading to the Nutty Putty caves being sealed shut.
I just don't be understanding, why do people want to go, why do they want to go in the cave and like hunt it? Like, what are they going to find out of it?
Nutty Putty cave incident.
Nothing.
Be warned.
Alright,
This is
Pito.
not a story for those with claustrophobia. The
I got
Nutty Putty
claustrophobia.
caves, first explored in 1960, were notorious for their narrow and slippery passageways, twists and turns.
Like, did they get
cave
it, like,
system
a
is
nut off
accessible
this?
by a narrow hole, just 30 inches wide, and was reported to be an
It's just like my
extremely
ex-bitch pussy.
beginner's cave, welcoming anywhere from 5,000 to 25,000 visitors a year. But after a series of high-profile rescue missions between 1990
So there's probably 25,000 dead bodies in there?
1999 and 2004, the cave's safety was widely and publicly called into question. All of these incidents involved people becoming stuck in the smaller passageways of the cave.
So you tell me you hear that?
23-year-old
You hear that and you decide, nah, let me go visit that bitch. Like, what? You kind of
became
knew what was
stuck
going to
for more than
happen.
7 hours, just meters away from the place where John Jones would find himself trapped. In another incident, a local teenager became stuck upside down for an entire night before he could be rescued.
How, if he was hanging
Because of
upside
this
down, how'd he
high-profile
survive?
instance, on May 2006, the Nutty Putty cave entrance was gated and inaccessible, and for several years, local cavers, or spelunkers as they're known in the US, were
Spelunkers?
battling
I've never heard that a
with
day in my
authorities
life.
who were threatening to close the cave for good. Officials stated that the caving system was a ticking time bomb, and that it was only a matter of time before somebody was killed.
Whoa.
But local spelunking groups...
So there was a bomb in there? You tell me they almost got exploded and they still decided to go down there?
Shutting the cave down would be unfair.
That's like
to
digging your own
serious
grave.
cavers, and that people should take more responsibility for their own safety. It's apparent from the comments and letters written into local papers that some people felt extremely passionate,
Am I the only one getting
even indignant
goosebumps?
about its potential closure. One letter to Utah's oldest newspaper
This was literally a young boy
demonstrates
state.
this, reading, "I'm tired of the government deciding it knows what is best for us.
Oh.
Nutty Putty Cave has been a fun spot for me. Both of my sons now love going to that cave. I hope
You took your
someone can tell
kids?
me how many people have been hurt or killed. I haven't heard of any. Possibly a sign telling of the risks involved should be placed by the cave so that we as Americans can decide for ourselves what is best."
Damn.
As the war waged on, finally, in September
Oh my
2007,
goodness.
the caves were officially closed to the public, while a new volunteer management team was put in place. This was a last-ditch attempt to prevent the cave's complete and permanent closure. And then,
Damn,
finally,
gooseball.
in March 2009, the Nutty Putty caves reopened, with a brand new cave management plan. The new
Wait, so
plan
was the Nutty Putty, whenever he went in there, was it closed or was it open?
enforced a process which required would-be spelunkers to apply for a permit 21 days before their visit, and agree to follow certain safeguarding procedures, such as having a minimum of 2 people per visiting group that were, and I quote, experienced cavers. And so, it was under these circumstances
John Jones and
that
Josh Jones?
26-year-old John Jones and his then 23-year-old brother, Josh Jones,
Why do parents
plus
name
9
their
other
kids that
members of
close?
his friends and family entered the Nutty Putty caves on the 24th of November 2009. When the group entered the cave at 8
So it
p.m.
wasn't
local
just him
time,
there.
they would have been confident. Whilst John and his brother had not visited the Nutty Putty caves before, they had spent much of their childhood exploring Utah's caves.
Like, you
In
really let
fact,
your kid
as a
do
small
that?
boy, John had more than once acted.
I won't even do that as a
trapped
grown
victim
man.
for the Utah Cave Rescue Team.
But low-key, it is kind of smart because they little kids, so they small, they can low-key fit in there. But at the same time, it's like,
Father
they're
had
not smart
failed.
enough.
But the reality was that John and his brother.
Like, this gives me
hadn't been
claustrophobic just looking at it. This is like making me uncomfortable. Like, just look at this being enclosed like this makes me uneasy. No cap.
John and his brother could act as experienced cavers on behalf of their group. Nonetheless, for the first hour,
Oh, friend, bro. Never made. My bad. He might be passed. I mean, RP.
Called the Big Slide. It was at this point that his brother Josh and their two friends challenged each other to go further on into the next part of the cave.
So it was 4 people.
One of the most difficult to navigate areas, known as the birth canal. This part of the cave is
It looked like the kid Leroy.
so tight that only a few people can actually access it. Eventually, the birth canal passageway opens up into a small room. Several people had become stuck in the birth canal previously, but
wow.
John, a fit, healthy, and slender man in his prime, wasn't worried. Heading through the passageway first, with his brother behind him, John wriggled on just his stomach down what he thought was the entrance to the birth canal. But
How did they get video footage of him doing this if he died, though? Was he like recording he died and they took the camera and uploaded the footage?
Unknowingly had taken a wrong turn down an unmapped passageway via a route known as the corkscrew.
So he went down the wrong side.
A place where only the smallest and most flexible of cave explorers could fit. As John pushed forward, the passageway became tighter and tighter, and he became unable to turn back on himself. When he saw what looked like a small opening at the end of the crawl space, he continued on, with hopes of being able to turn around. Unfortunately, this is where things took a turn for the worse.
Goodness.
Because John was crawling head first into a 10 by 18 inch fissure that dropped straight down. Worse still, John had sucked in his chest to slide past a lip of rock to get into the fissure.
Why would he
When
do
his
this?
chest expanded again, he became completely
Stuck.
trapped in an area
Goodness.
the size of a small, front-loading washing machine. John made several
Was that a
attempts to
foot?
free himself. It was no use. It
Where,
was at this
where
point
was his... The real question is, where was his brother at? Because more than likely he was mad, he was freaking out, going, help, help, help. Where was his brother to help
that he
him?
began calling for his brother. When Josh finally
Bitch,
found
that's
him,
what I said.
for a split second, he thought that this would be a silly story to tell later on that evening, but
Hell no,
as he
there ain't
examined
nothing
the
silly about
situation
that.
more closely, dread settled in. Josh made several desperate attempts to free his brother, but none of
He
them
tried to
worked.
help.
In fact, he had made the situation worse. John had slid further down into the passage and was now completely
How do we know
upside
this wasn't an
down,
inside
with
job?
both of his arms pinned to his side,
Oh my
unable
gosh.
to move at
This
all.
is
It was at
scary.
this point
This is
that the two
disgusting.
brothers realised that they needed help. Josh alerted the rest of the group and left a friend to stay with John as he rushed out of the cave system to a nearby hill to get reception and call 911. Knowing help was on the way, he went back down into the cave where his brother was still pinned upside down.
Wait, so
It would be 3
somebody
hours
let me know, did both the brothers die in the cave getting stuck?
before help would arrive.
I'm mad curious
At
on that.
12:30 a.m., the first rescuer arrived on the scene. It was Susie Matola, a local volunteer who immediately rushed to the scene when she received
Susie.
a message on her pager. Right away, Susie realised that John's predicament was much, much worse than she had thought.
Oh,
She knew she had to
how
keep
did they get
John
the
calm,
footage? Why was she
and so
recording?
she greeted him and told him that he'd be out in no time, and not to worry, to
She
which
blue
John
balled him.
replied, "Hi Susie, thank you for coming, but I really, really want to get out." Susie tried
Well, that's what she's there
absolutely
for.
everything she could think of to pull John out, including cutting off part of his jeans to free up some space.
Damn.
But after 2 hours, Susie was exhausted and unsuccessful. She
So
was
that's the
forced
Nutty
to
Putty
crawl
part?
back up to the surface where, at this point, both his wife and his daughter and around 30 rescuers had arrived on the scene.
That's
There,
scary, bro.
a very concerned but
Like,
calm
imagine
group
being upside down on your head and the lady got to leave and say, like, we can't get you
were
out.
brainstorming plan after
You're just
plan.
waiting for your
They
death
discussed
date.
everything, from breaking John's legs to lubricating the walls with several gallons of oil. But eventually, they decided upon a system of ropes and pulleys to hoist John out, legs first. This pulley system would be aided by drilling some of the rock around him to create more space.
That's what I was
Members
gonna
of
say.
the
Why didn't they drill like the rock around him or start hammering and breaking it to free up the space?
The team made their way to John
That's what I
with
would've
the
did.
equipment, but they ran into problems. The rock wasn't coming away quickly enough. and removing what did come away from the wall was proving impossible to do safely.
Because you do gotta remember, he's
Not least
upside
of
down.
which because
So
the
if you didn't know, whenever you're upside down, whether you're even hanging from a bed, from stairs, or like the Nutty Putty incident, there's actually blood circulating, going to your head, to your brain, filling up your head, and eventually the blood's gonna fill up your entire head, and your eyes gonna get bloodshot, and you'll eventually die from that. You don't want blood rushing to your
Rock
head.
was falling back down onto John. Back at the
Y'all thought I was
surface,
stupid,
the
huh?
rescue team,
I
now in their
got an A in
hundreds,
science.
were all becoming increasingly concerned. Things were moving slowly. Each trip to pass a piece of gear to John's location, 700 feet deep within the cave,
700
took an hour,
feet.
and only one person could ascend
That's like
or
the Eiffel
descend
State
down
Building.
the passageway at a time. To make matters worse, when rescuers told on-site trauma surgeon Doug Murdoch that John was upside down, Doug made the
That's
team
even
aware
worse. That's
that
even
this likely
crazier.
meant that John would only have 10 hours before his organs would fail.
Yep.
The human body is designed to be upright. The
Yep.
heart works with the force of gravity, and if it can't, blood and fluids quickly begin to pool in the brain and lungs.
Like, how can y'all not believe that there's a higher power out there whenever you see this? Like, your body was just built so perfectly with the gravitational pull that it just works so perfectly that you can breathe and live without any failure. And you believe that this all happened by chance, by like
Eventually,
a
it
rock?
becomes extremely difficult to breathe. On top of this, the heart begins to work overtime, and it becomes increasingly difficult to pump blood around the body, which can lead to cardiac arrest. This
See?
was something Susie noticed within the first hour of working to free John. A distinct rattling noise coming from his chest, a clear sign that fluid was pooling in John's lungs. He was already starting.
This makes me feel
asphyxia.
mad uncomfortable.
The rescue team decided that the immediate goal should be to get John out of his dangerous position to alleviate the pressure on his lungs.
Bitch, no shit. What did you want to do? Push him farther down? Like, what? Ain't the whole point to get him away from the Nutty Putty, get him away from the rock outside and free him? What type of stupid shit is that?
To install the first system of ropes and pulleys, but they quickly ran into several
That little ass
problems.
rope ain't doing
John's
nothing.
legs and feet couldn't
What they
bend
need to
back
do
down.
is get a rope, get a big, thick rope tied around his legs, and this has to be like 100, 200 feet, and attach it to a truck, and have the truck start driving and pull him out. Me, if I'm in there, RP to the man, because we know what happened, but I'm squeezing out like these, pushing my head, getting to get up, I'm leg pulling, doing all this, and I'm going to eventually get out, eventually, somehow, some way.
On the curve of the shaft he had slipped into.
But at the same
On
time,
top
I'm
of
not going to be in this position in the first place.
this,
That's my
the
last
little
pause.
rock that he had breathed in to slip past was catching on his chest. It was, as one official put it, the worst possible place to be stuck. Nonetheless, the team managed to hoist him up enough to elevate his position slightly and administer IV.
This video is
Unfortunately,
disgusting.
just
How did they get
moments
videos
later,
of this man?
His first pulley system
Like, this is the
failed,
position he was in. His feet are like,
and John
and
slid
his
back
head's
down
stuck in
into his
there.
original spot.
So he
At
was
this
almost
point,
out. They
John
blue
was
balled
swinging
him.
in between a state of calm and panic, and so
I don't know how you
decision
can be
was
calm
made
during
to bring
this.
a two-way cable radio into the cave so that John could speak with his wife. The conversation was tense, but
Word
it
of
did
bro.
serve to keep him calm.
What a bro, I ever get stuck in this position, do not give me no phone to call no bitch. I'm about to die and you got me talking to my wife. Me and her might be in a fucking fight right now.
enough for the next system of ropes and pulleys to
I'm
be
trying to make it
installed.
out. I'm trying to see your ass face to face.
After 19 hours, a team of 8 were ready to pull. But there was a problem. Each pull was agonizing for John, and the team had to pause
That
several
shit's
times
insane.
to avoid breaking his legs. And then,
At this point, no,
I
word of bro, I don't care. Snap my legs, bend my legs, spin my arms, anything to get me out. These bones can heal. My soul can't.
On the third pull, John was lifted up high enough to make eye contact with his rescuer,
Oh,
who later
wow.
commented that his eyes were red, his
Yup,
face was
see?
dirty,
That's
but
what I
he
said.
seemed fine otherwise. When the rescuer
If
asked
too much
him
blood
how
gets your head, your eyes gonna get bloodshot red from the blood pouring down.
he was,
Scientific
John said,
cap.
"It sucks. I'm upside down. I can't believe I'm upside down. My
Yep.
legs are killing me." The rescuer saw that even though John was complaining, he had a smile on his face. And then,
How?
on what was to be the fourth pull, disaster struck.
That they have a raising system that was helping to hold him in position. One of the devices as part of that system failed, and Mr. Jones actually ended up falling back into the area where he had been stuck for so long.
The system
Damn.
had failed. The entire team fell backwards.
Oh my gosh.
When the team regained composure, they realized that the worst thing imaginable had happened.
Oh
A
my
bolt that was drilled
gosh.
into one of the cave's walls had come out, causing part of the cave to crumble. This had
They
hit
crumbled
the lead
on
rescuer
him?
in the face, causing him to momentarily black out. And, worst of all, John had slid back down into the crevice and had now become completely unresponsive. With the rescuer closest to John now needing medical attention, a second lead rescuer took his place.
Wow.
Satisfied that John was, in fact, still breathing, in a state of desperation, the new rescuer somehow managed to slip a rope around John's waist. But he himself became stuck and needed help from other members of the team.
So one person's blacked out, one person is barely breathing, and the other dude
multiple injuries in the
is
process.
stuck with them?
A third lead rescuer made a last-ditch attempt to free
My
John
goodness
by
gracious.
desperately drilling away the rock around him. But it was no use. The entire team was exhausted. John was barely breathing and was still unresponsive. He had gone into cardiac arrest,
Oh my
and tragically,
goodness.
there was nothing anyone could do. It was at this point that John's wife Emily was informed of the situation. John
Imagine
was
being the
technically
wife or
alive,
husband of
but
this person and you hear
unconscious.
this.
In her desperation, she believed that he could still survive the ordeal and continue to radio down. In one of her final communications with John, she said, "I know you've been pushing so hard for so long. Why don't you rest for a minute and take a break, and then you can push again?" At this
Damn.
point, whilst
That's
they
mad
couldn't
depressing,
officially
bro.
confirm it, rescuers suspected the worst.
Thought I heard a
And
knock.
so, a brave paramedic was sent down to take a pulse, confirming what everyone had suspected.
No.
At 11:56 p.m. on the
No.
25th of November 2009,
No.
John Edward Jones was
No.
pronounced dead
No.
28 hours after he had initially become stuck. Emily was initially
That's
in
gotta be one of
complete
the worst
disbelief.
ways to
She
go.
refused to believe that her husband could die from such a simple mistake and did not accept that a pulse taken from the leg could indicate that he was dead. Eventually, officials managed to calm her down, agreeing that they would do everything in their power to remove her husband's body from the cave. Not
Damn.
wanting to let a grieving widow down, the team discussed what was reported to be some rather distasteful plans to get John's body out, but this would prove to be impossible. Even if they were able to free John, his lifeless body would not be able to twist properly in order to be fully removed from the cave, at least not intact. It was decided, given everything that had transpired, that it was simply too dangerous for the rescue team to attempt to remove his body. And so, the
Wait,
decision...
so did they get his body out the cave? Did they get him? Because I'm assuming they wanted to bury him, cremate him, have him where he's like a stiff, like they stick something in him and they stiff him up, like I can't remember what it's called, but it's something.
was made to seal the entrance of the cave with concrete, with John's body inside, forever. John's family had a plaque installed on the entrance of the cave in his memory. Later, the family would release a statement where they said that John Edward Jones, husband, father,
did they get him out the cave?
pediatric cardiologist in training, would be remembered for
This
his
is sad even
quote,
looking at his face,
good
like
nature, delightful sense of humour,
R.I.P. bro.
strong work
Real
ethic,
talk.
a genuine love of people,
No,
a
you
masterful
idiot.
ability to relate
Was
to
that
children,
necessary?
a love of and unwavering
You the only person in
faith
chat
in
right
the
now, you had to
gospel
call me
of
an
Jesus
idiot.
Christ,
Amen,
and his
brother.
commitment to his family as an amazing husband, father, son, and brother. To this day, John's remains are still inside the cave, serving as a harrowing reminder of the very real risks of cave exploration.
I wonder if this cave's open still. Or
This
if they
is
closed
the
it
Real
up for
Horror
him.
Channel, the place for all things really horrifying.
I'm
you
not
enjoy-
gonna be able to sleep tonight, bro. Hey, make sure you guys never go cave diving. Smash the like button and subscribe.